I've had a week off from this building this this Viv. Not really had much time on my hands. I haven't got a lot further, just still cracked on from where we were really. Got another coat on the hides just because I'm going to have a look at putting my lighting in before I get too far with the build, because I'm going to try and create climbing right up high. I don't want the animals to be able to get on the lights. Also, I'm going to build or coat most of this on the outside and then install it afterwards. I want to make sure that I can get it in with things in position. So I don't really want to fit the light in, but I think it's a case of having to, just to make sure that everything's going to work right, and I don't leave anything dangerous that they can climb on and grab hold of if they get hot. The first light I'm going to fit is going to be my UVB. I'm using the Arcadia Pro T5 kit. This is the 14%. Obviously you decide what what percentage you're going to use depending on what animal you're putting in it. I'm going to put chuck wallers in here, or possibly some Euromastics. Depends on whether they appear at the time this Viv's finished. Anyway, so in the box, this is the Pro T5 kit. In the box you get your fitting with the reflector. The reflector clips off, it just clips off if you want it to. So you could use the same T5 kit for animals that need lower UVB, just by unclipping the reflector. You get your tube. This is the 14% one. There it is on the box, 14%. There's plenty of information on the box as well. I don't think there's any readings for UVI. Yes, there is, just there, look. UVI reading 6.0 at 15 inches. I always measure with a sonometer, but there's plenty of data out there, plenty of Facebook groups. Reptile Lighting Group on Facebook have got loads of charts, loads of data on UVB provision. But these T5s really are good. You also get a power cable with a switch. Power cable and switch just there. I'll be binning that off. I don't like the switches. I get rid of that. I've got other cables. It's always an accidental turn off with the switch, so everything's plugged in safely in another way, but I'll get to that later in time. You get the link cable, which is this one. I don't know if you can see that on the camera. That's got a male and a female, so you can link several of these together. I think Arcadia say 8 altogether. So on the ends you've got a male on one end and the opposite, there's the camera, female connection on the other end. So you can just sort of daisy chain them together. Handy if you've got a couple of Vivs or a couple in one Viv, you can just get away with using one plug socket. Dead simple to fit. You get the clips. So I'll show you how to fix it. I'll fix it onto this temporary surface. The clips, they just screw in. The screws that come with it are actually too long for most Vivs. Most Vivs are sort of 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, 15, 18 mil thick. They're just too long. They go straight through. You know, this is an 18 mil board. They just go straight through. So I use these 5/8. It's a 5/8 6s, 5/8 by 6, 16 mil screws, and you literally just screw the clip in. Let's put that screw on there. Literally just screw it down, mark where you want it, screw it down. Get your marks put on your Viv ceiling, and then this literally just clips in. Job done. Keep them, you know, a bit from either end. I won't do the other end at the minute. I'll show you how to put the tube in. So the tube just comes in a cardboard sleeve inside the box. So to put the tube in on this end, you line the pins up, slide them in on both ends, and you just give it a twist, and you'll hear the click. You hear that click? It just clicks into position, and that's it. That's in. So show that again. Slide the pins down, give it a twist. That's it done. Plug this in, get this turned on. I'm just going to put this camera down. So that's the cable plugged in. Just turn the switch on. That's it, we're up and running, we're on. They really are simplicity. If you want to use the link cable, it will just be the opposite fitting on the other end. These take a while to warm up, and they work best after they've been in use for a couple of hours, I believe. Again, I'm sure there's data out there somewhere about that. But yeah, that's the T5. I've also got a T5, well, a grow light to all intent and purposes. This 6,500 K T5 HO unit. This was this one here. It was ever so cheap. It was like 20 quid on eBay. Does the same job. Again, same type of fitting. On the other end, you've got I've put the cap on that one, but you've got the same thing. So these two can actually be linked together, and that just gives out a different coloured light with no UV. See if we can catch that on the camera, but they are definitely a different colour. The grow light version is going to go in the cool end, and the UVB is going across my basking zone. I've installed the UVB, the Arcadia T5, above the basking zone. I like to do them diagonally across this way rather than sort of left to right, because the most powerful UVB from a tube is in the middle. So I want the middle of the tube over the middle of the basking zone. If I turned it and ran it lengthways, the middle of the tube would be almost at the edge of the basking zone. I've also installed the full spectrum, well, daylight spectrum, not full spectrum, light up here. This is done with the link cable from one to the other. If we can catch that one on the camera. So from there to there, the link cable's a little long. I should be tucking that up, putting a zip tie around that, and maybe even put it inside a bit of a trunk at the top to hide it. Now that's the fluorescent tubing type lighting that I'm using in there. For the basking, I'm going to use these Reptile Systems ceramic lamp holders. I've got a couple of these in use. These are brilliant. I love them. What I like about them is they're adjustable. So this is the fitting. I've actually got two here. This is the fitting. Really well made, nicely coated, well painted. They're adjustable. So they've got two screws on the side which allow you to turn the lamp. So if you're using halogen lamps, for instance, you could sort of put it further away and actually angle it and point it to where you want to use it. On one of my other Vivs, I've got one pointing at the back wall onto a small basking zone, like a second basking zone with a small bulb in it, and it works really well. The only downside to these, I've reviewed these before elsewhere, the only downside I've found with these is that they come with a cable and a switch, but the switch is closer to, zoom back a bit, is closer to the fitting than it is the plug. So when you come to install them, you can't really get, you've got to drill a big hole to get the plug, because they're pre-wired, to put the plug through. I'm not a fan of that. I'm also not a fan of switches. I think they're an accident waiting to happen. You know, kids in the house or whatever turn the switch off, and you got to work before your timer's come on, and the next thing your lamps haven't come on. So I tend to cut the switches out. I've spoken to Reptile Systems about this. They're aware of that. They're going to put the switch nearer the plug, more like the Arcadia versions. The Arcadia jobber, the switch is nearer the other end. So I'll put that one to one side. So what I've done is I cut the switch off. Now I am going to reuse the cable, which I can't lay my hands on. So I've got the cable here with the switch and the plug. So I'm going to cut the switch out completely. Now that's gone, all I've got to do to put this to install this is to drill a small hole just big enough to get the cable through. There's no big holes for the plugs. I'll install it and then join these cables back together. Now I'm not going to go into details about electrics. If you don't know what you're doing with electrics, don't touch it. Get somebody else to do it that does know. But if you do know what you're doing, these little connectors, this one's from Wilco's, these are really good, dead simple to wire if you know what you're doing. Let's just open this up. So inside all you've got is 3 connections. You put one to one, same as a plug top here. Like it's got a cord grip, so you strip your cables back, you put your cables into the terminal blocks for one part, you bring the other part of the cable in the other side, same again, put them in the terminal block. When it's done up, it just leaves this small box with the 2 cables going in. Just the job. A brilliant way of connecting the cables together. The cord grips inside just stop the cables being pulled, so it would never pull out of the cables, out of the terminal blocks. They're really good, and the advantage is you only have to drill a hole big enough to, I mean, you get that through a 10mm drill bit, get through that, you just push that through, fix your thing to the ceiling, and there's no big holes. And I get to use the pre-wired plug and the correctly rated cable that came with the fitting in the first place. So I'm going to get on, stick these up, decide on positions when I get them up there, and I'll come back and show you where they're fitted up on the top here. Let's get this lighting fitted so we can crack on with the building. Just a couple of things I forgot to mention about these Reptile Systems brackets. You know, I mentioned how they can be angled to fully adjustable to any point. Something else that I think is really handy is on the top, they've got the holes that you fix it to the ceiling of the Viv with are actually a slot rather than a hole. So you can attach it and then turn it within those slots. So you know, this is just a random bulb just for illustration, but you can actually point it exactly where you want. Maybe better if I do that on the floor down here. So you fix it in the 2 points in the centre, and you can actually turn it round, pivoting it on those points. The other thing it does is that because it's adjustable, I just nip those screws undone a little bit. And because it's adjustable, it will tip down to exactly right angles. Now if you're going to put say a Jungle Dawn or a Jungle Dawn by Arcadia or a Reptile Systems New Dawn LED in it, you can actually turn that to 90 degrees so it can run parallel to the ceiling. Ignore this bulb, the Jungle Dawns are square bulbs that come out, but you can actually use that to fit those as well. So these really are brilliant fittings. I absolutely love them. They're far and away the best fittings I've found, and they're actually cheaper than the Komodo ones or the Arcadia ones at the minute. Anyway, yeah, I'll get on. I've got the first one of these basking fittings fitted up. Works a treat. The screw holes, I'm just leaving it square to the basking spot. Ignore the bulb, that's just one that I've got kicking around. I've drilled a hole at the back. Zoom in there, see if we can see that. At the back corner to pass the cables through. I've drilled, I think it was 22mm, which is about an inch, I think. Big enough to pass the plug, this type plug, through for the UV tube, for the Arcadia tube fitting. So yeah, I'll nip round the back and show you that's the little connector box that where I've cut the switch out. see I've cut the switch out to allow me just to pass that cable through, because that switch wouldn't have gone through that hole. That's the connector box. I'm not going to talk about the electrics. And the lid just sits on like so, plugged in. Quite straightforward to fit really. But yeah, I'll get on with the other one and go from there.